Oh, yeah, you read the title right. There's some wild stuff right here, man. I don't think I ever heard anything like this, except in the old slavery times. This is crazy. And I live in West Virginia. All right, so I want to say I live in West Virginia. I live in Martinsburg. I don't know how far this place is from West Virginia. But this is a very interesting story. I can't believe it. But I want to take notes. I want you to take notes of it because these people weren't from West Virginia. All right. They weren't from West Virginia. They bought these kids from Washington State. If I'm not mistaken, Washington State is extremely liberal. OK. All right. It's the liberals who you got to watch out for, guys. If you're out there and you're a black person, you don't know the difference between liberals and conservatives. Conservatives are the good guys. OK. It's the liberals. And you need to find out the blue states. All right. Look on your map for all you young people out there. Look on your maps. All right. Which states are blue and which states are red? The red ones were the good guys. All right. They brought these kids from Washington State to West Virginia. All right. I live in West Virginia. It's a nice place. There's some good people here. All right. There's a lot of crazy drug addicts out here, but that's anywhere you go. But this is a very interesting story. I want you guys to take a listen to this. All right. It's 5 black children were purposely adopted for slavery by 2 white maniac liberals.
Jacksonville couple accused of human trafficking and forced labor of adopted children, including 2 teenagers who were found locked in a barn in Sissonville. Well, they're back in jail.
Now, during their arraignment this afternoon, Judge Mary Claire Akers significantly increased the bonds for Gene Whitefeather and Donald Lance. Anna Saunders joins us live in the studio tonight with the reason. Anna?
Dave, Gina, before setting their bonds to $500,000 cash each, Judge Akers said she has never seen an indictment quite like this, and that not only alleges the trafficked black children adopting them from shelters and foster care, forcing them to work, but that they specifically targeted them because of their race.
Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance came in on their own for their arraignments, but left in cuffs after Judge Mary Claire Akers set their bonds at $500,000, more than double what they had already paid.
And I don't think I've ever seen an indictment like this in all of my time. It alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor, human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted because of their race, and their use as basically slaves from what the indictment alleges, along with human trafficking and neglect with serious risk of bodily injury or death. I don't find the bond to be sufficient.
Whitefeather and Lance were first arrested last October when a welfare check turned into the discovery of 2 teens apparently locked in a shed where investigators said they lived in deplorable conditions behind the Sissonville home. 1 other kid was found inside the house and 2 others were not home, all adopted by the couple. The indictment brought more than a dozen new charges against them alleging human trafficking and forced labor, also civil rights violations, as investigators believe they targeted these children specifically from a shelter because they were black, forcing them to work as slaves. Whitefeather and Lance were originally in Washington State, and it is alleged they brought the children with them to Sissonville when they moved.
Counts 9 through 12 allege the use of forced labor, which I read as slavery.
Bond was initially set at $200,000 cash, and they were both able to post it. Prosecutors have said in a new complaint for forfeiture, the couple sold a $725,000 80-acre ranch in Washington State and sold their Sissonville home to post bond, and they believe both of these properties were paid for through trafficking. That will be decided in a separate court matter, but because of this, prosecutors say they found discrepancies in the financial affidavit Lance filled out for a court-appointed attorney, leading to a new charge on his indictment.
Some of the information on his face is inaccurate.
Lance had to fill out a new affidavit today as the 2 were taken back into custody.
Now, the next time these 2 are scheduled to appear in court is for their scheduled trial in September. Prosecutors noted there are volumes of evidence in this case for all sides to go through. Now, in terms of the bond issue with how the original bonds were paid for, that is to be worked out at a later date. Live in the studio, Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News.
Why would they bring them to West Virginia? That's my question. What in the world from Washington State to West Virginia? These people, it looks like they were trafficking the children. Okay. But there's more to the story. Take a look at this.
The Sissonville couple accused of human trafficking and forced labor were back in court today. This is the case where Donald Lance and Jeannie Whitefeather were arrested after deputies found their adopted teens locked in a barn last fall in Sissonville. But as Anna Saunders explains, today's hearing was focused on their financial situation as prosecutors consider some of their money illegal.
That's right, Gina. As new charges of human trafficking, forced labor, and civil rights violations stacked up against Whitefeather and Lance, so did their bond amount, as they are now back in jail on $500,000 cash bonds each. But the matter addressed in court today was about the first bond they posted when they were able to put down $400,000 cash back in February. This raised red flags with the prosecution, as they believe that money is contraband and are now looking to have it turned over to the state.
It's the prosecution's ultimate goal to seize the $400,000 that Whitefeather and Lance posted for bond in February. The argument is that bonds were paid by selling homes in Washington state and in Sissonville, where human trafficking occurred. But what happened today is Kanawha County Chief Circuit Court Judge Mary Claire Akers signed a protective order for that money, meaning it must stay with the sheriff's office until the courts decide if it will be seized or not.
We're not trying to forfeit the money without due process. We just want to protect it and preserve it until we've had a chance to litigate the claim.
A 16-count indictment was recently returned against Lance and Whitefeather, going far beyond their initial charge of child neglect. Investigators now say the couple sought out and adopted 5 black children from a shelter, targeting them for their race to do forced labor. The complaint said Lance and Whitefeather first had them at this 80-acre ranch in Washington state and then moved to the Sissonville home. This is where deputies, while doing a welfare check last fall, found 2 teenagers locked in a barn in what investigators called deplorable conditions. After they were arrested, the 2 sold the Washington home for about $700,000 and the Sissonville home for about $300,000. Prosecutors believe they used that money for bond.
And the state's position is that these assets were used to maintain and harbor minors in violation of the human trafficking statute. Our position is that's not true, and we look forward to a court in which we can prove otherwise.
So for now, the money is supposed to remain untouched until the court proceedings play out. Whitefeather's defense attorney Mark Plants and Kanawha County Assistant Prosecutor Chris Kavaniak both said seeking forfeiture for human trafficking, though common in federal court, will be uncharted waters for all in circuit court.
I've never had one in 20 years. The human trafficking statute is relatively new. Chris Kavaniak's the prosecutor. He's formerly a federal prosecutor where they do this all the time. He's very competent, knows what he's doing. But this is an issue of first impression for me, and I think the court. I don't want to. You know, when I looked this up, I couldn't find anything about it, and you notice that Mr. Kavaniak said the same thing. That in state court, this really hasn't been done before.
Now, with this $400,000 now protected, it can't be used at all right now while the protective order is in place. But if the state wins out in this and the forfeiture is granted, it could possibly be treated like drug seizure money, where percentages go to arresting agencies and the prosecution, or it is common for human trafficking money to go to the victims, which in this case would be the kids. All of that pending how this plays out in court alongside the criminal investigation. Live in the studio, Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News.
Those kids should get that money. They were the ones trafficked by these libs. Okay. All right. They got to be liberals. I'm sorry. They got to be liberals. None conservatives do stuff like this. Period. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you say. All right. Bible thumping conservatives don't get down like that. I've been in West Virginia for a long time, and ain't nothing but nice people around here. The economy's just bad. It's just like all the rest of America. All right. But these people had sold those houses. I saw over almost $1 million. And they made all that money trafficking those kids. Isn't that crazy? I can't believe it. When I saw it, I said, West Virginia. I was mad until I heard the whole entire story. Now you got some libs on here on YouTube, you know, trying to make it look like it was a West Virginia thing. I'm pretty sure I saw a couple of stories, but it's not. These aren't West Virginia people, but they brought them to West Virginia from Washington State, up there with California. Yeah, it's right there, you know, up there in that little area in the corner. Oh, the crazy people up there. You know, so yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comments about this. Interested to see how this is going to play out. I hope those kids get the money, though. They deserve it. They've been enslaved. What kind of stuff is this, man? I'm telling you, boy. Ooh, watch out for them libs, man. They crazy. Like, share, and subscribe. This has been Yup, I Said It. And until next time, guys. Thank you.